husband's job, so if he enters late, that's fine. and
All right,
dandy.
well,
Roll
I'll call the roll.
You'll roll the call.
I will do it.
Call the roll.
Well, I know that Stephanie is not here.
No?
And Martin, no. Mitch is here. You've got Steve over there.
I'm Steve.
You've got Steve over here.
Here.
And we have Bart.
So, we have 4 members present at the August 26, 2020 meeting of the Charter Review Commission. Therefore, we have a quorum and we can proceed with our meeting. Did you all get a chance to look at the minutes of the last meeting that Mitch sent out to us? Okay, are there any questions or corrections that need to be made to that?
I do not have any.
Okay, do we have a move to accept them?
I move to accept.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 I've got a problem with the insurance thing.
Okay, but let's
that's-
wait, we're gonna review that here in a minute. But I just wanna move on with
I
that.
thought we were talking about the changes that we made that.
No, the minutes.
Oh,
that
never
you-
mind then.
That you submitted. the
Okay,
minutes.
never mind,
Yeah,
never mind.
okay. So, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to continue our, looking at and suggestions for any changes to particularly Articles 9, 10, and 11. We have no public present. So at this point in time, it's time to review review the changes that we suggested at last meeting pertaining to Article 3. So, Mitch, you had something you wanted to bring up?
Well, let me open it up here for a minute. Well, we can either go through all the comments I've got in there, unless someone, you know, has a heartburn with anything, we could just speed it up.
Right. Well.
The only thing
since-
I've got a problem, I think, that I don't think it's appropriate that we put in a charter that Mike Compton can get, insurance.
Well, remember, we're not talking personalities, we're talking about positions.
I understand, but
Okay,
it's,
so try to leave the names out if you can.
okay, but I don't think that's the point of the charter. If the city council wants to pass an ordinance that allows that, I think that's where that belongs. I don't believe that's in something for the charter. If everybody wants to put it in there, I'll leave my dissenting vote as a dissenting vote and we can move on.
I think the issue is that they can't, it would be seen as a conflict of interest if they passed an ordinance to allow themselves, which they would fall under this as elected officials, to access the healthcare benefits. This is something that theoretically needs to go into the charter or the constitution or.
And we need to make it a whole lot more than just a sentence that says,
That they can have access to it?
right, now we've gotta talk about, okay, when does it cease to exist? You've gotta get into it a little bit more than just putting a sentence in there saying, elected officials may, if they choose, at no cost to the taxpayers or any official time for Pataskala city employees. You just can't leave it at that. I think that's just too wide open. You've got to.
Well, now keep in mind this, a charter is kind of a skeleton outline of how they're going to function.
Mhm.
It's not a detailed, rules and procedures and, you know, all that, so let's keep that in mind.
Right.
Now, I had a note on that, and by the way, Steve, in case we've lost you already, we're talking about section 3.07. And I had a note that Tim was going to check on something pertaining to this. Do you have that, Tim?
You know, I was thinking the exact same thing, and so I was looking over it, but I could not find a note to myself.
That's, all I had was Tim to check. And I don't know if you're gonna check the legality of it with the law director,
So I remember the law director telling me that the charter would be the only place that change could take place. But I don't see the note to myself, and I apologize. I'm willing to make, I did seem to remember that when I went back over and looked at my notes. I wasn't sure, I guess I wasn't sure if we reached the point where we had added the language that I thought perhaps that I didn't have to check with them.
yeah, we did add the language. We simply said that, council members,
Well, we said
May
we
elect
said
to-
elected officials, not just council,
You're
elected
right.
officials.
yes, I wonder why
Here's
council member,
what I wrote in
Yeah,
the
it's
thing.
elected officials.
officials may access the same healthcare benefits that are available to the full-time Pataskala city employees, but the entire cost must be paid by the official. The city will not administer nor pay any cost associated with the plan.
correct. That's exactly what we added.
That was the verbiage we discussed, and I typed it up and put it in there.
And your
Okay.
concern is that if, say, the mayor were to be changed, i.e. new mayor comes in, the old mayor could continue with that? Or is that your concern?
I'm just saying, it's wide open at this point in time. I think if we're gonna, I don't believe it should be in there to begin with. That's just a personal thing. If everybody wants to say, move on, drop it, Mitch, I'll say, here's my dissenting vote, that's fine. And we'll just put it at the very end when we say, we agreed on everything except the following issues, and we'll discuss which ones we didn't agree 100% on, and I can just say, I don't agree with this.
Yeah,
And here's
because
why.
we'll have to vote on each change before we pass it on.
Right, so I don't, we don't need to quibble about it right now. I just think it's
No,
wrong.
but
I'm just voicing that
we
right.
need to know what you're thinking and why
I
you're
don't think it should be there at all. I don't think that's the point of the city to say, we're gonna let someone who runs for office, now that becomes part of the benefits package and all that. And I just don't think it's right. That's just a personal thing, and
I'll say, to what Tim might wanna check on is the legality within the state of Ohio. Is that legal for a city to extend that to an elected official?
Yeah,
Is that something that's done? Now, in Columbus, the mayor may be considered a 40-hour-a-week job. I don't know. I guess it's a different
it is a
municipalities.
different,
Yeah.
organization, yeah.
So it's a full-time job, and that person,
right, pretty much like
like the sheriff.
Yeah,
or
and
the
city
prosecuting
council in
attorney.
New York City and
Yeah.
Chicago and stuff is a Monday through Friday job.
Right, it's full-time.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of a part-time, full-time differentiation. I liked it from the standpoint that it's an incentive to get good people
Yes.
to want to do this, which is somewhat a thankless job. But again, if it's not something that's widely done, in municipalities, I could be swayed to say, oh, maybe we shouldn't do it. I don't know, but I'm open to that. And I would agree with your point that, okay, if the current mayor is voted out of office in November or whenever, and the new mayor is sworn in January, he should not continue to have benefits beyond when the new mayor, because now the new mayor is gonna be entitled to those benefits on January whatever. I know he's paying his own cost, but there should be a prescribed cutoff
Right,
date.
that's what I'm saying.
That person.
If we agree, and again, we don't have to do it all right now, because obviously, we don't have 3 other people here, and I think,
Because of the lag time in getting things set up and taken out,
Yeah.
it could be 30 days, 60 days, whatever, from the time that person leaves office, if we agree to go with that. But just thinking out loud, does that sound like something that's
well,
I know you're not akin to it, but.
I think you would need to put more than just what we came up with at our last
Yeah.
meeting. We
I
need
think
to
there
have
should be a finite
end.
cutoff date that
this, let it
Like,
be
while
known.
they're in office.
eligible to participate.
Right,
while
let
in
it be
office.
known whether whoever you are as an elected
Yeah.
official, There's no loophole here that
That you're
you-
permanently on the plan.
Correct.
How would,
No Cobra or
how would
anything.
Cobra run in with that then? If you were to
See,
be
that's what we may run into,
as a mayor,
What's that?
then they would
Cobra.
have the right through Cobra,
to
for
have
up
it
to
for 18 more
months.
months.
I do agree we should have some wordage in there so that we know
Yeah.
that when you're done,
You're done.
then your option is Cobra, which is gonna cost them the same amount, cause they're already paying the full amount.
Yeah.
However, I
The
think-
problem I see with it not being in here, Mitch,
Mhm.
is that every time we get a new mayor, then council has to decide whether they can or they can't have insurance. And then I think you're gonna have you potentially could
No,
have
they
a
can't.
con-
It's in
I'll
the
go
charter.
ahead and just throw it out here right now. At our last meeting, nobody that's part of the charter review committee right here
Mhm.
had ever considered whatsoever adding this stuff in until you brought it up. You tossed it out there, which I also think that was inappropriate myself.
Well, you're wrong.
I'm just saying my personal
And I'm
opinion,
just telling you,
you know.
I'm allowed to sit here and bring up anything that the elected officials have said.
That's right.
Mhm.
And we
So
wouldn't even be
At any
talking,
point during this,
Right.
that's exactly why I'm here.
yeah.
Okay.
We don't
Well-
have to like it or
Yeah.
approve it or put it in there.
I agree.
But it's his responsibility then to bring it up.
Yeah,
Okay? That's what
and
you're saying.
that's exactly why when, Todd
Uh-huh.
was here, president of council, and he was pointing out to us some parts that they've had difficulty with.
He
or
was pointing out
stumbling.
existing parts though, to correct an existing, part of the charter to clarify that. Now, we're adding stuff in.
Well, and I have that concern with some other things that are suggested for tonight, which we'll get to here in a minute. But, yeah, Tim's absolutely in his right to come and to make offerings to us. We don't have to consider it, we can put it down or bring it up.
I think I did make another suggestion that you guys didn't accept. That's neither here nor there for me. All I do is track the different stuff that people have said and
Sure.
bring it to your attention.
That's fine. Okay, so it'll come up for a vote.
Okay, yeah.
So it's something that you brought up, it gives us food for thought, when the, and like you said, with three people absent tonight.
Yeah, we don't wanna discuss that
I
until we
don't-
got everybody here.
I would prefer not to vote on any.
No, yeah, that's
Until a
not
little
fair to
later
the
in
other
our
people that
process.
can't make it, so no.
Right,
I'd say-
but, Tim, I would like to find out what kind of legal ramifications,
Absolutely.
are brought about
Give me a
if we,
chance to ask Brian then.
yeah, if we do put it in. Okay, other
So
things.
put a big question mark next to that.
Big question mark, and I put that language about while in office with a question mark, so. Anything else that we did with section 3 that, anybody wants to question or? make
I
a
did
comment?
add in a couple just administrative things in there where they had a paragraph that was duplicate number, and there was, where it talks about an elector, and there was an asterisk, but then the asterisk did not exist where the definition was, so I added those couple little just administrative changes in there. One of them's comment 4, is with the asterisks, and then,
Where is
up
it?
there in the beginning, comment number 1, they have paragraph 504 listed twice. The first 504 should be 503.
Okay.
Mayoral.
Maybe you can keep a separate list of those kinds of things, and then before we finish up, we could go through just the typo type thing.
Right, I've got them in here in the comments. I'm just saying,
Okay.
those are the only 2 things that
Other
got added
than-
in of what I sent out last week,
Okay.
or right after our last meeting.
Right,
That, only those 2 items are additional, everything else is what we discussed.
okay,
Yes, that's all I was trying to say.
okay, I get your point.
Yeah.
And thank you for getting those out to us so quickly after the meeting.
I'm retired.
I know. I know, since I've been retired, I've been a whole lot busier than I was when I was working, I guess.
Well, I'll have them out probably before Friday afternoon again, cause I'm not golfing tomorrow.
Well, thank you for.
Not
getting
golfing?
that. No, I don't golf all the time.
Golf today.
Okay, now, one other thing I wanna ask you before we get to our, Stephanie had given us all, her suggestion on the safety procedures. Did you all get a chance to read those? And Steve, do you have that?
I don't
Probably
recall
not.
seeing that.
It
no.
looks like this. She passed them out. in her
No,
office.
unless he got a copy of it somehow from someone, I would doubt he did.
Okay.
No.
You know, do you?
I don't have it.
She just walked around, passed them out.
Kept my copy.
I've got mine too. Steve actually could have it if you want. She thought we should add this to the charter. I'm not sure the charter's where it belongs. There is a safety, plan already in place.
Yeah, I think this is more of a safety SOP type thing myself.
I'm not sure it belongs in the charter.
Yeah. You could put something in the charter, I think, that says you need to review, I'm using my military jargon again, an SOP, standing operating procedure. You guys probably have SOPs for all kinds of stuff around here. When it
Police
snows more than
departments,
3 inches, right, this is what we do.
Right.
We pull it out and I think that's where this belongs.
Yeah.
And what you could do in the charter is you say, plans, op plans, we would call them op plan snow, op plan civil disobedience, has to be reviewed biannually and updated as required. Would you probably have the same thing with your snow plans and stuff, you dust them off?
Yeah, and also, there is an emergency plan. I almost like the idea of saying you gotta have the plan and you have to review it every so often.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, the thing that is,
but
you
then,
know.
and then you could list all the different plans that you have. And I'll go back to snow again, because we're getting into the fall time, you know? And that's one of the bigger things we're gonna have around here that's gonna affect.
Would that be under section 3.06?
Under 6?
Because it talks about rules of council, provides for how they appoint committees and do other things for the proper functioning government of council. I don't know, maybe it doesn't.
What section are you talking about?
3.06.
Council organization rules?
Wouldn't their safety plan fall under that? But in my viewpoint, a safety plan or an emergency plan, whatever you wanna call it, has to be fluid
Yes.
and not, subject to charter, because that's only reviewed every 5 years and it has to be voted on by the people.
That's what I'm saying, you could just put something in the charter that dictates
Refers to the
Do.
safety.
it
plan.
has to be reviewed according to this time schedule, whether it's every 12 months, 24 months or whatever.
Reviewed annually or something.
Right, and it'd just be, where would you say that goes in here saying, you know,
Yeah.
and then if you could just get us a list of any other plans, or get us a list of the plans that you've got, and then we could say, these 3 plans need to be,
Well, safety plans might have to be reviewed even more timely depending on what's going on.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I
And
noticed.
look at the things, whoa.
But then at least at a minimum,
And
someone could be saying, hey, are we looking at these, are we dusting them off? You know?
Well, and who would have
yeah,
thought
I definitely.
a year
changed
ago that
over
we'd be
time.
dealing with masks and spacing and all that, but now it certainly is part of the plan, so. You know, it has to be fluid, it has to be looked at more often.
Well, yeah.
in my opinion. So if we can figure out where that would go, once we get that list.
I'll make myself a note for that as well.
Barb, one thing that came up in a previous charter review commission, they had some of the same concerns. And the things that they wanted to suggest that might not be appropriate in the charter, they gave a list of those to council so they could add them to their council rules or what other document they needed to be in. So that's something you can consider.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so while we may have some suggestions for council, it may not necessarily go in this document, but we felt they were important enough to communicate that to
Right.
council.
I got a note to get that list, and then when we
Where to put
determine
it. Yeah.
where we think we should stick that in, we'll figure out the verbiage of what we wanna do, and we'll add that in.
All right. Okay, so, and we'll inform Stephanie that was our decision on that. Okay. So now, let's move on to discussion of our articles that we planned for tonight, starting with Article 9. And Steve, we know we're jumping around, but we're trying to do the most pertinent ones first.
Sure.
And then we'll go back and review the whole document.
Understood.
Some of them are kind of cut and dried, so.
This is one of those ones that Todd had said that would make it easier,
Yes,
and that way at least we would be in compliance with local election law instead of putting our own little rules and restrictions in, so that's why, and I don't know how we wanna write it up, but that's why I wrote, change this paragraph to read in accordance with Licking County, Ohio election law. I wrote that note down specifically our first meeting. So if we wanna do something like that, then we just gotta figure out how to write that and then get rid of the specifics that Pataskala has in their charter for the 1% and 3% and.
okay, now Ben, of course, who's absent tonight, had also sent, an email about, 9.01, that section. He says either remove the last sentence and treat council members' petitions the same as all other offices, or leave the sentence in and add language to basically say it is lesser of 1 to 3% or what's required by election authorities. Either way, the point should be that election authorities should determine the requirement. And Stephanie also sent something, but nothing for 9. So she sent something for 11, so we'll get to that when we do.
I will say that I talked to Todd about this point today. He and I actually went back and looked at if the 3 and the 1% is essentially being right now you have to collect 50 signatures.
Okay.
When we looked at the 1 and the 3%, it's roughly in line with that.
It's roughly
in line with 50.
Oh, is it?
But as the population changes, it would be out of sorts. So I think my suggestion to him was to remove the second part of the paragraph and maybe add Licking County to the top of the other one, and just say the Board of Elections can make that determination. Also,
Yeah, to me, that's a no-brainer. If someone
Alright,
else,
so where would we start leaving out?
at the word in
In
case.
Just leave that out.
nominating petitions for all elected offices in the city shall be in accordance with Licking County, Ohio election law. Period. It's over, and the rest of it can be gone.
Well, you gotta have the signed by electors of the city in there.
Yeah,
'cause
I think so.
just to clarify that you need
What if you kept
voters.
it? Nominations for all elected officials of the city shall be made by nonpartisan petition only. No primary election shall be held to nominate officers of the city. Nominating petitions for all elected officials of the city shall be in the form determined by the election authorities, provided under the general laws of Ohio and Licking County, or it should be Licking County and Ohio, and signed by electors of the city, period. To take out the whole next.
Yeah, and that's what Ben said, leave out that last sentence. Is that
I
okay?
I think you'll find that Licking County election law is gonna say your petitions, it must be signed by what we are calling the electors. They'll have the same stuff there. I think all that'll already be covered. Just trying to cut down a lot of the verbiage.
It is interesting that the second paragraph leaves out the mayor, which I thought was interesting. You'd think that if you were gonna have the 1% and the 3%, you would have the same requirement for the mayor, but it didn't make it through.
There's a lot of contradictions in this thing that I have found.
All right, so somebody make a suggestion, what we do. How do you feel about leaving off that last sentence?
Getting rid of it,
Yeah,
starting with in the case of,
yeah,
striking that entire,
yeah.
Well, if we're going by the guidelines of Licking County and the state of Ohio, then we don't need that last sentence,
right.
because it doesn't pertain.
So do we want to insert something like in accordance with Licking County, Ohio election law, or just
Well,
say under the
yeah.
general laws of Ohio?
No, I think we should add,
Licking County as well.
under the general laws of Licking County
All right,
And
under the general
Ohio.
laws of Licking County
and Ohio.
and
And then
Ohio.
omit that last sentence. Anybody have a problem with that?
And then leave in and signed by electors of the city.
Yeah,
Yes,
So we're gonna, first sentence stays the same, second sentence will read, nominating petitions for all elected officers of the city shall be in the form determined by the election authorities, provided under the general laws of Licking County and Ohio, and signed by electors of the city.
yes.
yeah,
Okay,
I think that spells it out pretty
Yeah.
well.
yeah. It gets rid of,
Yeah,
too easy. And everything's gone after that.
yes,
Okay, done.
okay.
Well, done in my verbiage, but I'll clean
I
it up
know,
before I
I
send
know.
it. It's in Mitch language, but it'll work.
Okay, moving on. How about section 9.02? Anything?
I found throughout the entire charter that we have different requirements for publicizing stuff. Some chapters talk about newspapers. Some chapters talk about
Oh, yeah.
newspapers and later technology.
Yeah.
And then in here, we've got a special election.
Well, all right, well, right now
And
we're
it
on
says there's-
902. Anybody with 902? Okay, go ahead, Mitch.
All right, I'm in 903. I don't know, do we need to put a comment in there saying that we have to publicize these special elections? And also, should we make all of this consistent throughout the charter? You know, whether it's a bid of a contract, or it's a recall election, a special election, just a regular election. I would think that if we could standardize it, that would be a whole lot easier to say, this is how we publicize stuff.
at the end of 904, it says, where the charter is silent, the provisions of the election laws of Ohio shall be followed. And what I don't know is if what you're addressing is included in the election law of Ohio, that it says back to the local jurisdiction, you must in whatever form, publicize your election.
Right, I don't know that either,
Kathy's my go-to on this.
and I'm too lazy to
The
look that up.
Ohio election laws, under the Ohio Revised Code, stipulates very specifically how those are to be addressed.
So by us having this sentence where the charter is silent, the provisions of the election laws of Ohio shall be followed,
That
Covers it?
covers
Yes,
covers what he's saying that.
yes.
And Ohio election
And
law says
even-
requirements for publicizing elections.
Mhm. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
It's already, something that has to be done. We have to post it in the glass case out here.
By a certain time.
Yes.
Problem solved.
I just happened to see that in the next paragraph down, I was like, well,
Yeah,
I think you'll even find it's not the county's regulations as far as the election goes. It's the Ohio Revised Code and the County Board of Elections,
has to go by it too.
yes, has to enforce those.
enforce.
Okay. Anything else in section, or Article 9? Okay, let's move on to, Article 10, initiative, referendum, and recall. Can be a real sticky wicket. So anything for 01?
Nope.
02? I bet you had something there.
Yeah, I think if we look back at however we changed 901, I think that's kind of what we're saying, or at least what I'm saying in 1002B is
Yeah.
trimming that down with our Pataskala-ized version of it and saying like we did in 901, it's gotta be in accordance with general laws of Licking County in Ohio.
Is that defined in the revised code as well?
Pardon me?
Is that defined in the revised code as well? The
Could you ask
specific
that again,
procedures
the
we,
whole
you have to
question?
follow for a recall?
Start over, she wants to know the beginning of that too.
Under the recall section, 1002, does the Ohio Revised Code specify how a
Yes.
recall?
Yes.
So that would almost be the same as with charter is silent.
So we could get rid of, I think, what I've got highlighted that I sent out. Such petition shall be signed by at least the number of electors, blah, 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 blah. We're just restating again what the Ohio Revised Code clearly states.
Yes,
So we're just saying it twice.
yes.
We're saying free gratis.
I'm not an attorney, but I believe so. That's been our past experience with it.
Although our percentages are different, is it, or?
Ours is different?
The percentages depends on the last gubernatorial race, is where that is
What?
taken from. Yes, that's how, as far as how many signatures you have to have on a recall petition,
Oh, in the
It's
last
based on the-
gubernatorial race, okay,
Right.
gotcha.
that's what it's based on.
Do we wanna strike the part that I had highlighted then?
Yeah, because it says the number of electors which equals 20% and the number of electors voting in the last preceding municipal
Municipal.
election.
Provided, if petition filed,
I guess the question is, does the city of Pataskala wanna have their own special rules, or do we wanna try and normalize it to what the state rules are?
I think the easiest way is, and let the state, let the county and the state take the legal burden if someone wants to challenge something, and you can always say,
We do it
Hey,
as per the.
we're
we're
revised
doing what the
code.
state of Ohio tells us to do. If you got a legal challenge to it, talk to the Secretary of State.
So it says 20%.
It does, specific.
Right.
I don't have it in front of me.
But if the Ohio Revised Code changes in 2 more years,
You change with it,
It would change, yeah,
not
it
the
would
way
be
this
the same.
reads, because we would be locking in,
20%.
right. So if we get rid of it and we just follow the revised code, then will always be consistent with what the law reads.
The last charter review looked at this quite a bit, and they wanted to make it a little more stringent to recall someone, so that it required more signatures. That's where some of that.
I only remember one recall election since I've lived here.
There's been two.
Pat Sager's the only one I can remember.
Bernie
That was
Bernie
what,
Brush.
about 10
Right.
years
Bernie
ago
Brush.
maybe? Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like it happens,
And
and I've lived
in
here
the
since.
70s, we had 4 councilmen and a mayor recalled.
Really?
Yes,
Back in the village days.
so.
But we only had 500 residents in the village.
Well, since
Yeah, there you go.
92, there's
15,000
been
or whatever
two
we got now.
since 92. So I mean, I don't think it's a prevalent where there's power grabs and we're striking in the middle of the night to take away my political foe.
As I recall, they wanted to bump the percentage higher because if somebody ran unopposed, they would oftentimes have a low turnout.
Sure.
And so the low percentage turnout meant you only needed 35 signatures or 50 signatures to recall somebody. And that, the last Charter Review Commission thought you should have more. And I think that was just the logic. I'm not arguing one way or another for it. Just saying, I think that's what.
I'm
was in-
inclined not to change what's in the Ohio Revised Code.
I'm not either. I think if you follow that, you're golden. My suggestion is what I had highlighted that I sent out, was the last run-on sentence, such petition shall be signed by at least, that we could get rid of that. And maybe add something in somewhat like we did in 901. You could say
It'll be in
Minimum
accordance
number.
with Ohio Revised.
such petition shall be
Done.
under the general laws of Licking County, Ohio, and,
Our revised code.
yeah.
Let's do that.
But then we fall into what Tim was
What do you
was
think?
discussing, so.
Yeah, I think to
Just a
standardize it
minimum
with
number
what,
of people and we base it on
is
percentage.
laid out
I'm assuming the
I
Ohio
don't
revised
think- I
code.
don't
by
think
the, by the state law is fine with me.
Probably
Um,
not. But as soon as we
I
change
don't
it-
know what the impetus of, I wrote this down, I think when Todd was here, was he the one who brought it up?
Uh-huh.
And his impetus was what, he was saying that they would prefer it to be higher than 20% or something? I mean, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I like the idea that it just falls in line with whatever the accepted state practice is, because why do we need a local rule on that? I mean, I don't know.
I agree with
To
that.
insulate, protect people that, you know, one time in
A
a
fifth
decade.
of the voters.
Yeah,
still-
yeah. Insulate somebody who, you know, may or may not have, you know,
Yeah,
deserved to be on the council, I don't know, so.
I agree.
Well, I think the community determines who deserves to be on council when they. vote
Well,
for
I
it,
think
so,
if you gotta, I don't know all the history, but I think there are people who, you know, if their activities are unlawful or whatever, then, you know, you're gonna act to get rid of them eventually, but.
Well, if they're unlawful.
And that's completely different
That's
than,
different.
we don't.
Well,
like
yeah, I
this
guess-
guy.
I guess-
They can be
That's why we
removed.
want
Yeah,
him.
recall doesn't even address that, that's
No.
just the will of the people,
Yeah.
so.
So what are we gonna do?
Well, we seem to be in agreement to do that.
Okay, how do we wanna,
Well, you said such petition.
shall be signed by at least, or shall be,
In accordance with.
all right, such
Um,
petition shall be,
Conducted or done in accordance with.
The guidelines within the Ohio Revised Code.
I mean, the only thing that would be I mean, somebody files a petition, successfully files a petition for recall, is there then a special election
Yes.
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 to determine that, and you have to pay money to have a special election held?
Yes.
And
Yes, we do.
it
Yep,
kind of becomes,
It has to be within so many days.
yeah,
you can't just sit on it.
yeah.
So we're gonna then get rid of this signed by at least the number of electors of 20%.
Because it's spoken to in the Ohio Revised Code.
Right, so I'm just going with such petition shall be in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, period.
Or we could put the section that addresses it in Ohio Revised Code.
I don't know what that is.
Well, we could probably find it up.
All right, I will,
I think it's online. Isn't the Ohio Revised Code
Yes.
online, Kathy?
Yes, it is.
But if I'm asking Brian Zetz about, the other issue, I could ask him about this one. at the
Right.
same
just go
time.
ahead and put a parenthesis, section to
I
be
would check whether
determined.
it's the local election or the gubernatorial election and make sure.
Okay.
And you'll get that information for us?
I will indeed.
Okay, and then in C of that same section. Oh, I gotta see what Ben said. Here, Ben had said in, section 10.02B, the percentage threshold to file recall petition definitely should not be raised above 20%. Should not be harder for citizens to take action.
Which actually then reinforces our idea of just following what the Ohio law is.
Yep.
That would reinforce what he's getting at.
Yep. All right, so we move on to C. You had a couple of questions for C, Mitch.
Well, they're saying within 10 days, are we saying 10 calendar days or 10 working days?
Do you know, Kathy?
That I wouldn't wanna quote, that is set by the Ohio Revised Code.
Yes.
But to answer that question, I would wanna defer to the law director.
Tim, is that another question you could add for the law director?
Certainly.
When they say 10 days or 5 days or whatever,
10 business
are they
days.
talking working days or calendar days?
Specifically 10:02, but I can ask him for other instances as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can
And
you
this
ask,
is-
can you ask him the definition is promptly?
I can.
I think it means pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Pretty quick, probably. What's your question?
Just promptly is in here twice, and I just don't know what a promptly is. I know when I tell my 16-year-old son that something needs to be done, and I think it needs to be done promptly. My version of promptly and his version of promptly are drastically different.
Yeah.
His is 10 days. Yours is now.
And mine is not 10 working days, it's 10 calendar days. Yeah, I mean, again, this is my military coming out, but I ask these questions because it just jumps at me.
Okay, I'm gonna put it here that Tim will ask the law director.
Okay. What do we want to do about promptly?
I'll ask the same question.
Yeah,
What a promptly definition is?
Is there
Is there a
legal
better
word-
word to use?
And is there a better
Yeah.
word?
yeah.
One that's not so.
I mean, it may have been intentionally ambiguous to give somebody like Kathy an opportunity to get the work done. They may have intentionally, when they wrote this, said, let's not let it linger. By the same token, if you say she has to do it in 5 days,
Well, she already had 10 days to do it, and now she gets a promptly to do the second step. Maybe I'm getting into the weeds too much, but I'm thinking that leaves it kinda open right there that we need to nail that down and saying,
Yeah, I'm just telling you what I think it's possible that
Sure.
they wanted to leave it
Sure.
ambiguous to give
Yeah,
the clerk
That makes sense.
an opportunity, but by the same token, is it time to clean that up?
yeah, and I don't anticipate that there's a lot of these petitions coming in that you would be overwhelmed to the point that you need
but it could come in.
extra
It's-
time to
it's-
file
Kathy-
all my
Kathy-
recall petitions, cause we are in the recall section, remember?
Kathy just did this for, no, I'm sorry, Pat Sager.
Yes,
There was work involved,
yes.
sure.
But we moved pretty quickly.
Yeah, because you have to check signatures.
You move promptly, I heard that.
Well, I think it gives the city a little bit of legal leeway as well. That way someone can't come back and say, well, you know what, it took you 9 days, 8 hours and 15 minutes, what's prompt?
If I'm the guy that's trying to
Probably
be,
is open-ended like Tim
if
said.
I'm the guy that's trying to be recalled though, and I'm waiting, and if you start reading in here, you know, about when I start to get the paperwork back so that I can address the stuff,
Sure.
by the way it reads, I can slow it down in the bureaucracy of this building, and I mentioned being recalled for what I think is bogus reasons, but it's stuck in the city hall, and I can't even see what is going on because they're working the process. That's why my military mind says you put timelines on this stuff.
Well, the next point, there is a timeline that says, once you've been served, essentially, you get 5 days to resign, or then they will start the process of scheduling the election,
Yeah.
40 to 60 days. So there is a timeline addressed. It's not something where you're gonna get served and then in 2 days they're gonna have the election. It's,
It's for both sides protection.
you've got a timeline here that protects the elected official that I think deals with what you're talking about, that you're not gonna get blindsided to where, oh, I got served this and they wanna vote me out next Tuesday. It can't happen that quickly,
No.
so.
I think we need to determine whether it's 10 working days, 10 calendar days, and then you get rid of the word promptly and you put a number of days on that. If we can put within 10 days after something's filed, I think you could put after that process is done, you now have 10 more days to do step 2.
I do have before me the checklist for recalls. It is the regular municipal election that we base things on, so you're aware of that. I could go through these, but it's 2 pages long.
What if, I think Mitch just said something, what if you just took the word promptly out?
Yeah. The clerk shall certify the particulars in which the thing is filed, and again, down below, I saw the same thing, Steve, it does list
There's a timeline.
how it has to happen, but
Right.
you're adding,
So
you're
it can't
adding
get
stuff in
stopped.
there, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just like, you will promptly certify the particulars, no, you're just gonna do it. Either say, you know, within 5 days, 10 days, or whatever, you will
Right.
certify them, or just say, you will certify them, and that's it.
yeah, omit those words. Okay. Okay, and then in D, you made a good point there too. Wanna go over that, Mitch?
Hold on, let me strike through this one real quick. The current technology thing,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, again, that's what I think I said that earlier today. You know, we've got this stuff sprinkled throughout the entire charter about announcing things, and it all varies a little bit, you know, but 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper of general circulation in the city. Is there a newspaper that anybody's read in the last 5 years? Be
No.
honest.
Maybe in the last 5, but
A newspaper, I read the Advocate every morning.
Okay, well.
I don't read any newspaper, I use my phone.
Yeah, and you're getting the websites, yeah, but it's antiquated. We need to figure out how we announce things, you know?
I mean,
Well,
we
I
don't
think the
even take
reason
a
they put the
newspaper.
current technology is because technology changes so
Right,
fast.
yeah.
We don't wanna say in here by newspaper, because we don't read newspapers anymore, it's not that common.
Mhm.
I totally.
But here we're only talking about putting it in a newspaper, you know?
If I,
What if we suggest to city council that we spend, I'm looking the wrong way, we spend $10,000 and at the front of City Hall, we put one of those, signs up that you can announce things that are going on, you know? Okay, well then I can announce,
Probably violates a zoning ordinance the
code.
council made.
but you know, you could announce there are bids that are out there for construction that people could bid on. Visit our website.
All right, let's
you
hear
know.
from
Yeah.
Kathy.
there are some things that we advertise on the website, the legislation that's been passed,
Mm-hmm.
positions, a number of things. But the state law, when it comes to advertising a public hearing, that has to be in the newspaper.
So that is a high revised code.
Yes, there are certain things that the higher revised code comes in and dictates how we will advertise it.
So are
So we could add in though then,
can we do
and
that?
utilizing
plus-
all current technology available.
Can we
Or
add,
recommended
can we
by
do the
higher revised code.
newspaper plus any,
It has saved us thousands of dollars by advertising our legislation on the website
Sure.
instead of
Oh,
putting it
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually have, I think, more people that follow it on the website
Yeah.
than we
Sure.
do. We get better response on our open positions, those type of things by putting it on the
Mhm.
website.
is there anything that would prevent us from
It-
posting such a thing?
The only thing is there are,
The only thing
like
you'd
I
have to
said,
do
with
is you
the
have to be in
public
accordance with
hearings,
the law.
particularly with rezonings, those must be 30 days prior to your hearing in the newspaper.
Okay, but can we do it newspaper and?
Yeah, we can add, you can add to it and say we wanna do newspapers and post it
So
on
you
the
wanna be
website.
careful that you don't dictate that we go back to advertising your legislation.
Yes, because
That's
that
very
costs us money.
expensive
Yeah.
when you have to.
No,
do
I was
that.
gonna say, it's in the newspaper, this recall is, and on social media, or however we would like
City
to.
website,
Yeah,
Cause you want it to be official,
yeah,
you don't wanna go on Facebook or something like that.
no. The
Although
official city
Facebook, you'd
website.
probably hit
We
more
do-
people than you do on
Yeah.
the
We
website.
do.
You would, but you'd also get,
Advertise
Yes,
on the
billion
city
comments.
Facebook page of different things that are coming up, so.
right, I
it
mean,
gets out.
a city, a Facebook page associated with Pataska is an official site also.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, we do that.
so we wanna add something in about, Use-
Official city electronic,
official city social media and websites.
yeah,
but the word official,
official, not the Pataskal group.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
or next door Brooks Edge or anything,
Alright, I'll get that in there.
okay,
Now, for clarification, are we saying newspaper or?
and,
And
Okay.
And,
But then
because she
again, we
said-
run into,
it's required by law
There's certain things that are
to be in the
required by law.
newspaper. But
Most
there's
of
nothing
what
that
we
says
do-
we met what's required by law, but there's nothing that says we can't go above and beyond.
beyond that.
sure, as long as we don't cornhole us into a point where we have to put everything in the newspaper,
Yeah.
because
we-
that just,
You know, we don't wanna
Just
do
wait.
that.
No.
But we're talking about something
I'm an
pretty specific.
anti-paper guy.
Yeah, this is a one-time only thing here.
Yeah,
a
this is
one-off.
pretty
I
specific.
still read the damn thing.
you're old school, Tim.
Usually I'm not.
I used to
Alright,
get the dispatch every
Anything
day,
else
but
on 10?
they couldn't deliver it by the time I left for work to go to Beetler. I'd leave it at 5:15.
Yeah.
If you can't give me the paper in time, I'm like.
Anything else on 10?
I don't have anything else on 10.
All right,
No.
let's move on to 11. I'll give you the word from Ben and Stephanie on these. Ben says in section 11.01. These are general provisions, okay. Section 1101. Consider adding language to sentence about where notice of recall hearing is to be published to include electronic means.
Oh, we just did
Is he talking about? Oh, I suppose it's the same thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should posting notice on city's website, in addition to publishing a newspaper, be considered effective? Less and less people, he means fewer and fewer people saying printed newspaper. So that's his
Where's
point.
he finding that in 1101?
Well, he put 1101. Oh, F, I'm sorry.
F.
1101F.
F.
Oh, I've got a
I
thing
know,
down there.
my mistake. He said that, I just,
We just wanna add in the same thing we did up above about
Yeah.
official city social websites.
yeah,
Okay, down there in F.
yep.
And
Mhm.
and that could be Facebook or the official web page itself, so yeah, okay.
Website and social media, official
Right.
website and social media.
I'll wordsmith it
Okay, good.
after a few foamy pops tomorrow night and we'll come up with something and I'll send it out.
All right, then I'll give you Stephanie's input. First is for 1102, so let's stick to 1101 right now. Did anybody find anything that they are,
I just had a question as I was reading the whole thing with A. Who can invoke that? An elector, any resident?
say that again?
Charging official,
Yep.
Who can be a charging official?
the mayor.
Mayor.
Unless the mayor is the person being charged, and then it's the pro tem president of the.
Okay, but they're the charging official, which means somebody on council wants to remove somebody else on council or whatever. Mike, because he's the mayor, is the charging official. Okay,
Right.
he's the judge or whatever you wanna call it. Who can invoke though that I wanna remove somebody? Does you have to be someone that's an elected official?
I
Or
think
can
that's
any
where this-
resident, cause it does not specify,
Remove for cause. In other words, you have to have a legitimate reason.
but who can do that?
The
I
council,
would-
Can
say
Joe
any-
Citizen,
no,
who knows that
No.
somebody on,
Council.
or does it have to be somebody on council that
they
does
would
this?
have to go,
They would
the
have to bring it.
citizen would have to
Yes.
go to the,
They'd have to bring it to the
Council.
mayor and the council to get it.
See, it doesn't say that, it doesn't specify that this is an option for just any elector.
But recalls are for the community as opposed to,
yes.
this case would be for council.
So if it's a citizen, they'd have to
But
make.
that
their
would be
case.
also removal because you broke the rules in 1101C 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So let's take an example. If you're a citizen and I'm an elected official and you know that I've suddenly been charged, actually I've been found guilty of a felony, you can call the mayor and say, Hicken was found guilty of a felony. The mayor then has reason to believe that there is probable cause or not.
No.
So a citizen can initiate it.
That's my question.
They gotta get the
You know-
attention of the charging official.
They do.
Yeah, but anybody, any elector can,
Bring
You don't even
it,
have to be an elector, I don't think. I think if you're, whether you're registered to vote or not.
that's right.
okay.
Yeah.
Did you see where I'm going with this?
I do, it's a.
Because everybody originally was like, well, this is only for council to use, and I went, well, wait a second. I know that, you got council meetings and so-and-so council member, decided that he wanted to get into a Tuesday night golf league, and he's been blowing it off. Well, according to this, that's reason for removal.
If you miss 3 or more.
But I'm just his neighbor, and I'm like, well, I know that he's not going to those council
But
meetings.
that falls under council rules, where council rules decide, we're gonna give you 2 excused, or 3 excused, or whatever, and usually, having been on council, and Tim can attest to this too, usually the mayor or the president says, well, so-and-so's not here tonight, there was a death in the family. Or, so-and-so's not here, it's work-related.
Right.
Well, then we all vote on excusing that person. At the end, usually, we excuse anybody that wasn't there, then have a little joke.
I'm not getting into that part, I'm just
No,
saying,
but that's
do you
what
wanna
I'm-
have something in there that says, this option's available to anyone? Or do we not
Well,
worry
it
about it?
basically is, but you gotta get the attention of the charging official.
Mhm.
The charging official has to decide if there's really enough there to proceed with it. And usually it has to do with something illegal,
Mhm.
immoral, or there's another word,
Malfeasance.
malfeasance, yeah,
Misfeasance and non-feasance.
yeah.
Well,
Which
it's usually
usually
all the
means they're
feasances.
stealing
All the
money,
feasances.
or they're, taking
Abuse of power.
bribes, or, something that
Mhm.
is legally or morally wrong. So, I think that that's the way it should be. Okay,
I will say that in talking with Todd today, one of the things that he thought was, right now, we have a decent working relationship between the mayor and council. If you ended up in a highly contentious relationship and the mayor decided to say that Mr. Friel was in malfeasance because it's not really defined very well. One of the things that he wanted this group to at least consider was whether or not you wanted the check of having the law director agree with the charging official.
So if the mayor is the one bringing it up, then it needs to go through a second part.
Well, at any time that his suggestion was, whether it comes from a citizen or whether it's the mayor, if the mayor didn't like an individual, so he charged him,
Sure.
should this group want to consider having concurrence by the law director, that was good enough.
I think that only makes sense.
oh, okay, so
In
that
legal
part,
sense, yeah.
the charging
You
official.
already got that addressed in G. Director of law or special accountant by the director of law shall prosecute the removal proceedings. You have to, if I come up and I go, I have reason to believe that so-and-so did something wrong, and I want to bring this up publicly. Mike has to address it and investigate it. And at that point in time, down here in G is where the law director gets involved, because they would be the ones to prosecute it and go, you're being removed and we found it.
So
But-
Well,
by the time it
it's-
gets to that, you're
There's
all
no
the way,
choice.
you're all the way to the hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What he was saying was, if you make them concur at the beginning,
Head off a lot of the.
It makes sense, because as a police
Yep.
officer, we go to the prosecutor, present our charges, and the prosecutor can say,
Not
there's not
enough.
enough for charges,
Right.
or there is, and then they go on to a grand
Yeah.
jury or whatever, but the prosecutor does come back and actually prosecute. So
I
I think
think,
it makes sense that the
Yeah.
law director has to review it and agree that it's something that, otherwise, you
Question.
go through the whole process and find out it's not even really something you can, without
How's
having the legal director prove
the,
it.
sorry to interrupt, how's the law director assigned? Is it voted on by council, is it appointed by
Yeah.
the mayor, I mean, what,
employed by the council.
okay, and it's not a fixed term, it's just,
right now it's by contract and approved by council.
yeah, so that, if, okay, in this scenario, the mayor brings something and he just hired somebody, helped hire somebody he knows as the law director,
You're right.
then
Well,
that
the
could
mayor,
be,
the mayor can't do it, it's gotta be
It's
council.
gotta be council.
okay,
So if Y and C,
all right.
where it says the charging official, why can't we say if he or she, in agreement with the law director, has reason to believe, da-da-da. Or in accordance with the law.
After approval or, I guess what would be,
Right after the word "she," right?
See,
Yeah.
I read it as saying that the charging official, if they have reason to believe there's a probable cause, if I'm Mike Compton and someone threw a charge against me, council member Mitch, Mike would go to the law director and go, hey, here's what we got going on. That seems to me as though before you move forward
But
any
you
further,
don't-
you're gonna
you
talk
don't
about that.
Spell
kind of
it
stuff.
out.
you'd think so, but if
Well,
it's
well,
not defined in the charter, then he doesn't have to technically go
I-
to the, unless there's specific mayoral rules when it comes to that.
And I don't think there are, I totally get the common sense kind of approach thing,
Yeah.
but let's say that, Mayor Compton takes an incredibly dim view of what you've done, but the law director says, you know what, you're right, but
Illegal.
it's not quite illegal. It
Yeah.
just sucks.
Hmm.
It's just an immoral type of a thing. I don't think if this goes to fruition, so in that instance, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, and at that point,
It would end.
the charging would
Yeah.
stop.
So they've got to have an agreement between the two of them.
Well, there has to be a legitimate cause, i.e. defined by the legal director, whether it's something that
Right.
you should pursue or not.
I don't recall from the initial discussion, was it Todd who brought this up, and I just wrote down Article 11, removal of public officials, 2014 issue. And I got no specifics
That would
of,
be Pat Sager.
of what
That'd be about the time that I
That's
think
Mike
she
Fox.
was
Yeah, it
called.
was 14.
Mike Fox.
That's that's the outgoing mayor, Mr. Butcher, listing some things. Mike Compton comes in because their terms overlapped, and the question was, the things that Mr. Butcher charged Mr. Fox with, you know, that was coincident, that was my first, I walked in here and there's television cameras, I had no idea what it was the second meeting after organization. And so it was incredibly, it was surreal.
Yeah.
But that's what he's talking about there.
And in that regard, did something happen during that procedure that needs to be fixed, or what,
Well,
are they just saying that this was unwieldy when we did it in 2014 and it needs to be looked at? I mean, I don't have an opinion one way or the other, I just wanna know why we're looking at it, if somebody has a better way of doing.
I don't know, I think
Okay.
in Todd's,
You just mentioned it as a,
as,
Side
yeah, as you, kinda almost what we're doing, what you guys are doing right here.
okay,
And, you know, kind of parse it out and see what you think.
okay. Didn't know if there was anything to be learned from that episode that would guide us in
Yeah.
making a better process,
A
but,
specific example.
yeah.
I know, I wrote
Guy
improve
before you-
Whatever that means. But I think if we add,
That's a start, the
that
law
the
director.
charging official has to be in agreement with the two of them have to be in agreement before proceeding, then I would think that would clean it up quite a bit.
Should you also include special counsel? Because if you look farther into the document, it refers to the director of law or special counsel.
Special counsel.
Shouldn't there?
Yeah, it should be.
Well, we're putting the cart before the horse then on that. We're not gonna hire a special counsel until we've determined whether or not we're even gonna move forward. So I'm thinking if we're gonna put something in there that says you need to consult with the law director, you're looking at, chapter C. The charging official, after consultation with the law director.
I think it needs to be stronger than that. I think it needs to be, they have to be in agreement, not just I mean, I could consult with you and we can both come away with disagreement. But if we have to be in agreement, okay, Barb and Mitch agree on this, so we're gonna move forward.
And
Big
this is-
difference.
This is deep in the weeds, but if the law director has a conflict, let's say a relationship with whoever's being charged, then a special counsel would probably have to be the person. But that's so far deep into the weeds that, I don't know. I don't know, do we need to spell that out, or would the law director say, I can't rule on this, I'm directly impacted by this or whatever.
What generally happens if the law director is conflicted? Do
Well,
they defer to somebody else?
they would seek out, I believe they would seek outside
Council.
counsel.
Yeah.
Perry Mason always did.
Really?
He
Okay.
would always defer
Well-
to someone else.
Okay, well then it must be. Let's see, Stephanie had,
Are we doing anything with that, or are we just,
we're adding those words, aren't we?
I don't know, what words and where?
Let's see,
Okay, in C, the charging official,
if he or she, comma, in agreement with the law director, comma, has no,
I can just continue on from there.
all right, I'll wordsmith this on,
all right,
That works for me.
I'm sure you will.
I'll come up with something. In agreement with law director, and that's right
About it,
in the first sentence of
C.
C. All right, we can figure that out.
All right, other points on 1101.
F, I'm gonna add in the same stuff that we did up in 901 to fix the current technology thing, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
And then the only other thing I came up with is we make them say the oath of office, why are we giving them an out if they don't want to? I know we can come up with all kinds of reasons why, but at this level of government,
where are
if
you?
you're, I'm down in 1108.
1108.
Oh, we're not even to 1102.
Man, you're cruising.
She's finishing up 1102.
I'm finishing up.
Oh,
All right, we just finished up 1101. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Can I say one thing, and I just want this group to hear this, and I'm not advocating one way or the other. There was an issue with G last time, because in Mr. Fox's case, there was no hearing. However, they reached a settlement with the city, and he then applied to have his, legal fees paid for. The city maintained that there was no hearing, so it did not go to fruition, so he should not get his legal fees paid for. I will say that went to a judge, and he ruled in favor of Mr. Fox.
go ahead.
So the concept there is I wanted to at least point out that it kind of keeps somebody from being a rogue, keep eventually to keep putting somebody under indictment, for lack of a better term, because the city is going to have to pay the legal fees as a result of that. So I'm not advocating a change. I just wanted to let you guys know that issue kind of resolved itself, but that language never got changed. So I'm not advocating a change in any way. I just want to let you guys know that. Now we get
All right, on 1102, Stephanie had some thoughts. She said, my only constructive feedback would be for section 11.02. While I realize it is the intent of many that the charter stay generalized, that the laws of Ohio are referenced in this to act as a guideline, I do feel we should follow what most other city charters seem to be doing and outline the following detail. Number 1, specific agreed upon examples of conflict of interest. 2, guidelines for reporting sources of campaign funding, including due dates for reporting and the administration process for reviewing said reports. 3, adding a section outlining the penalty and process for violation of those guidelines. Now, the only thought I have about this, upon reading that when Stephanie sent it, is, having been through that, since I was on council 14 and a half years and went through several elections and several campaign reporting procedures, because you do that every time. Actually, there's a time mid-term, isn't it, that we had to
It's every year.
do a,
You do a financial disclosure statement.
right.
Each year.
And I need to tell you, it's pretty detailed. They wanna know everything about you. And any and all sources of income, gifts, et cetera, which is okay. But it's already spelled out pretty thoroughly on that campaign reporting. I can't imagine why we would list it in here. I don't.
I agree.
There's no choice in the matter. You take your petition to the city of Newark and you immediately fall under those guidelines and they tell you right then, you know, here's your campaign reporting.
Right,
Form.
here's what you're allowed
And
to do,
when
here's what
this
you're
is-
not allowed to do.
Right, and
Yeah.
this is when they're due and don't be late.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people wanna start reinventing things, and if you just go with what the simple answer is, it's
Yeah, it's
sometimes
working.
easier. Yeah.
So, I don't know, what's all your opinions on it?
I'm cool with the way it is.
I am, yeah.
I don't see any.
All right,
She obviously had something in mind. I mean, define conflicts of interest. Well, I have no idea what she's going for with that. Maybe she has a better idea, but
well, and she'll have an opportunity to
Just
bring
be-
that up again, no, we aren't voting.
if she could raise specific concerns, then.
Yeah.
Okay. 1103. Four. Five. Six. Seven. Eight.
The thing I got is, if you're at the local level here, and you're already gonna say, well, I'm not gonna say the oath of office, I think you're a troublemaker to begin with, and you're giving them an out to say, well, okay, if you don't really wanna make an oath to say you're gonna do what you were elected to do, that's okay. It's just kind of my point. It's like, if you're saying you have to take an oath, why do we give them an out right after that saying, take the oath? Now, if you don't, it's okay. There's another point up there where your job description is in the charter, and it says that you are required by the charter to affix the official seal of the city of Pataskala on documents.
Yeah.
If you don't do it though, it's okay. That's in here.
I'm aware of that.
Do you have any explanation about why we would say, you know, we want you to do this, but if you don't, it's okay?
Well, I'm trying to read that second, that end paragraph. Failure to take the oath or affirmation shall not cause a loss of qualifications for the holding of an elected office unless the officer shall refuse or fail to sign an oath or affirmation.
Oh, so you don't have to participate in the saying of the
You
oath,
said
But
to
you have
sign
to
the
sign it.
affirmation.
but you sign it.
So.
So by
it
signing
doesn't-
it, you're agreeing to it.
I don't find that to be too onerous. I think that's an agreement that they should have to make to take the job, I
Absolutely.
think. I mean,
But we're giving them the out by saying you don't have to
You don't have to
physically
say
say
it,
it,
just
you
sign
just
it.
sign the form.
yeah, within 45 days, you have to sign it. That's perfectly fine by me. I mean,
And their legal signature says they agree to it,
yeah.
so
You know,
just
why
because they
would
don't
you
say it
sign
out
it if you
loud.
didn't agree to it?
Yeah.
But I guess if they're gonna sign it, then why wouldn't they say it?
Have
But
you ever had anybody refuse to?
Take it out. Do they have to sign even if they take the oath? Or they're supposed to?
You do.
We all signed ours.
Okay, so let's get out failure to take the oath, just say something in there saying, you must sign your affirmation within 45 days to make it legal that you've now
Or officially.
assumed the office that you were
Yeah.
elected or assigned to. We all did that
yeah,
when
I mean,
Mike signed us in, and then we all signed our names, you know?
I think it's important though that we want them to say that.
I think it
They're
is
saying
too.
it on record in front of everybody else, theoretically, in most cases, right? You know,
But like
here
you
in
weren't
council
here
chambers.
when we had that meeting, when he gave us the oath. Well, that's okay. I'm sure Mike would probably have you go through that if you wanted to. But if you just sign it and give it to Kathy,
He
it'll
did, he
be all
came
right.
from the shop. Yeah.
Right?
He went to his shop and swore him in separately.
Oh, okay,
Yep, he
okay.
did.
But if you hadn't,
He does house calls, that's cool.
but if he hadn't, it would have been okay
He's
for you to
probably
come
happy
in
to be
tonight
over
and
there.
sign it.
Do we want to leave it as is, or do we
I
want to
think
get
so.
rid of the thing saying,
Yeah, I think
you
it's-
don't have to say it if you don't want to?
I think we should leave it as is, because realistically, I think people should stand there and take the oath.
Well, then we want to change it to say you need to take the oath.
Well, if somebody has some conflict with something in the oath, could be religious, could be something like that, if they don't wanna stand there and say it,
Yeah,
but.
there is a particular, isn't it Jehovah's Witnesses?
Oh,
I
never thought
believe
about
it's
that.
Jehovah's Witnesses that won't take any oath or pledge.
Verbally won't take any.
No.
So
We
maybe
had,
that's why it's there?
we had kids at school that wouldn't say the pledge because they were Jehovah's Witnesses, so, you know,
It's-
okay.
it does
It's
say-
not they
Now they're
disagreed. but-
So help me God is in there. I mean, if somebody's an atheist, I mean, they're not gonna,
All right, they don't have to say it.
I mean,
Sorry.
I say just leave it as is, and if they opt out of it, they just have to sign, and
Have to
that's
sign it.
that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Do you wanna add the word great city of Pataskala that the mayor always inserts?
No.
I think that's his editorial license allows him to do that. I think we won't do it.
That's all we got.
That's gonna be
All right, let's talk about the next meeting. The next meeting, we have a conflict in this room because of Labor Day, council gets changed, zoning gets changed. So Kathy graciously, or Tim, I don't know who did, made arrangements for us to meet in the police building.
Yeah, that's the one you just sent out a week ago.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, so it's all settled. It'll be the same time. It'll be what's the date? The ninth?
The ninth.
Same time, only not here, at there. What will be our, target focus then? Do you want to revisit the things that we've changed and vote on them? Or do you wanna just look at I wanna make it a productive meeting. I don't wanna just, shall we look and see if there's anything else we wanna change?
Oh, I've got stuff in every other chapter.
Okay, so let's say the topic for September 9th will be,
Chapter 4.
let's say, do you think we could cover all other issues? We covered 3, 9, 10, 11, those were the biggies. And some of them are pretty short. All other articles?
You could probably do 4 and 5. And if we go the same thing, that we just kinda look over whatever I send out of what our changes were, and just kinda do a review like we did
Yes.
with the last one.
Review of anything
And then
that's
we just do
outstanding.
4 and 5 at our next
Let me
meeting.
look and see what, all right. Gotta have it in front of me here. Four is,
4 is legislative and 5 is the mayor.
And the administrator.
and the administrator.
You wanna do 4 and 5?
Yeah, and if we have time, maybe we can get, well, we'll have to review what we've done.
And review.
Okay, so let's do 4 articles, 4, 5, and review.
Right. Review what we went over tonight
Right.
of the changes and make sure
And
that I
review August 26th.
got whatever it was that we were trying to.
Make sure we got it.
Maybe have Stephanie, if she wants to bring up the.
Yeah, give her a
points.
chance to.
Sure.
Okay. Sounds good. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion clear.
I second.
Okay. You wanna have a roll call vote on that, Mitch?
Sure. Mitch. Steve G.
Yes.
Steve
Yes.
H.
Yes.
Barb. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. I'll have this stuff out probably